This is Annie of ByAnnie.com and Patterns by Annie. Thank you so much for joining us today for Live with Annie. As usual, we've started the stream a bit early. This helps us get everything set up and broadcasting properly to our various platforms. You can find a countdown clock on the screen showing how long it will be until we actually go live. While you wait, please connect with us and other viewers in the chat. Let us know where you are from and whether you're a new or longtime viewer. We'll see you live soon! Hi, it's Annie again, reminding you that we'll be going live with this week's episode shortly. There is a countdown clock on the screen showing how much time is left. You've got just enough time to grab some water, or a beverage of your choice, and a snack, and to connect with us in the chat. We'd love to hear what you've been working on this week. Again, it's Annie, back to remind you that we'll be starting this week's live very shortly. We've got a really fun episode planned for today, and we'll see you soon. Hi, I'm Annie of ByAnnie.com and Patterns by Annie. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 29 of season 4 of Live with Annie. Today we are visiting with the amazing Elissa Ziccardi of Quilting Elissa. Elissa's creative style is bold, bright, and beautiful with a dash of over the top. She is passionate about pushing the boundaries of mixing endless color and loads of pattern in her creations. You are going to be blown away by her projects, so stay tuned. If you enjoy these episodes, please follow us wherever you're watching, and if you know someone else who you think would enjoy the content, tag them while you watch so they can join in too. Also, we love reading your comments, so please interact with us throughout this presentation. Share your thoughts, tips, and current projects. We really value your feedback and love learning from you. And feel free to ask any questions in the comments or chat, and we will do our best to answer them before we wrap up. Last week, we had a really interesting visit with Billy Rue, an architect, artist, quilter, and free spirit fabric designer. It was so fun to learn about Billy's creative process and to showcase the projects we've made using his beautiful fabrics. If you missed it or want to watch it again, remember that you can find all the previous 166 episodes of Live with Annie on our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, or at ByAnnie.com. And we've put up all the links to make them easy for you to find. So before we get started with today's episode, I want to share an update with you. Many of you may remember that in mid-June, which was season 4, episode 24 of Live with Annie, we had a really fun visit with Linda Aurier of Quilts for Kids to talk about their charitable organization that helps kids who need comfort. We also showcased a number of ByAnnie projects that we made using a new line of fabric from QT Fabrics called Delightful Dreams. This fabric was designed by Josie, a young girl whose dream was to help other kids who were battling cancer. And QT Fabrics is generously donating 50% of the proceeds of sales of this Delightful Dreams fabric to Quilts for Kids. So I am really excited to tell you that Tiffany from QT emailed yesterday to say that many more stores have purchased Josie's collection. And when I asked Jake to update the list of stores, he said he had to double check to make sure he'd opened the right document because of how many more stores there are. So the last list had 82 stores. This list has 348. So a big thank you to all of you who asked your local shops to purchase the fabric. That is truly impressive. So be sure to get in to purchase the fabric and then post photos of what you make, because we can't wait to see your Delightful Dreams projects. And if you haven't yet purchased the fabric and are looking for a source, Jake has updated the PDF listing on our website. So there are a number of ways to find the list, but I think this one might be the easiest. So click on the Community tab and then go down to Watch Live with Annie. And then the very first thumbnail is our season 4 episodes. So click on that and that will show you all of the episodes for this season. And just go down to season 4, episode 24, and you'll see the PDF list right there. It's in blue. And you can download that and print it out or find your store. So again, thank you to all of you for your help in making Josie's dream come true. You really are amazing. All right, so I am so very thrilled today to welcome Elissa Ziccardi of Quilting Elissa to Live with Annie. Elissa combines her love of quilting and her background in garment making to passionately create pieces that are modern and really made to stand out. Her favorite methods of sewing include foundation paper piecing and English paper piecing. And she puts lots of love into the details using fussy cutting and really amazing precision work. Her work is bright, bold, and beautiful, and I can't wait to have her tell us more. So please help me welcome Quilting Elissa.
Hi, Annie.
Hey, how are you?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
I am doing good. It is such a treat to have you here today, so thank you so much for making time to be with us. I know you've got lots of stuff going on. This is a busy time in your family right now. So can you start by telling us a little bit more about yourself, where you live, your family, all those good things?
Absolutely. So I'm originally from Iowa. I have been in Northeast Ohio, Cleveland, for the last 2 decades, so it's definitely home. My husband and I, Mike, have 3 teenagers. Liv is our oldest, Michael is our middle, and Gabby's our youngest. And then we have 2 dogs, Max and Rudy, as well. So Cleveland's home, and it has been a really, really busy time for our family. As you mentioned, Liv graduated from high school just after I came back from H&H Americas in Chicago, where I got to meet you in person for the first time, and Jade as well. And I have Jade with me, so I'm going to have her pop on and say hello really quickly.
I'm back
Sounds like a
again.
good plan. Hey, so good to see you. Seems like just yesterday you were here. You're making your rounds.
No, it's nearly a month.
I know, I can't believe that.
Wow. Wow. Time flies. Time flies when you're having
Right,
fun.
I'm gonna let you guys get on with it. I'm just the hander-offer.
Yeah, Jade's gonna help with bags and making sure that we get everything handed off, because
Great.
she's my live expert. So
She's going to be your Vanna today.
Yes. So Liv graduated from high school, and she is getting ready to head off to college. She moves in about 3 weeks, which is kind of blowing my mind. Michael's going to be a junior in high school, and Gabby's going to be a freshman. So I'm really excited to have them back in school together. We just missed that one being on her way out, but it's nice to have my younger 2 back in high school together. So it's been a crazy busy summer, lots of fun. I've been doing lots of teaching, traveling a little bit to teach, and just generally getting lots of sewing in. So that's what I've been up to this summer.
That's awesome. Boy, I remember when my kids were that age. It is so busy, and trying to get through high school and then choose colleges and all of that. It's busy times, and you've got a few more busy years with kids still in high school. But my advice to you is to just make sure you enjoy every single moment of it, because they grow up so quick and they're gone so fast, and enjoy it while they're there. So I am excited to know that you have been able to fit in some creating and stitching and teaching during that time too. That's not always easy. I didn't actually start doing my stuff until my kids were pretty much out of the house and gone, and then it became my time. So good for you for fitting that in. It was really fun to see the pictures of Liv modeling some of the new models that you just came out with the Untamed.
Yeah.
And she is beautiful, and just absolutely a spitting image of you, other than the dark hair.
Thank
It's
you.
like, it looked like I had to look. It's like, did Elissa dye her hair or what? So
I actually had a couple of people say that to me. They said, I loved how you changed your hair color. And I said,
Yeah.
no, that's Liv. They couldn't believe it. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
kind of wild to see someone, walking around that looks like you. I always tell her, you're smarter and prettier than I ever was at your age. So yeah, she's a good kid.
awesome.
I have, all of my kids are great kids. It's really uncanny, as like as they grow up, just to kind of watch them turn into their own people. And it's kind of odd that she looks so similar to me. So yeah, so she let me wear her denim vest today. As you can see, I'm modeling her Untamed vest. So
That's awesome. That's great. Well,
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about how you started in your sewing journey and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started sewing in the spring of 2011, and I literally just wanted to make a skirt for Liv. That was how it started. There was a shop over in Lakewood, Ohio called Stitch Cleveland. So shout out to Meg and Heidi. And I sat down and had my very first sewing lessons with Meg, and she kind of introduced me to the world of Amy Butler, which was wonderful. She was my first fabric love. And then I, quickly segued into, finding Tula, but started sewing for my kids in 2011. And that kind of snowballed into creating a children's custom boutique business, which, if you're not familiar with custom boutique, it's very one of a kind, very over the top, specialty, lots of color, lots of pattern, lots of ruffles, which is pretty evident still in the way that I create today. So I've always been kind of a little extra, that little bit of extra. Like there's not a ruffle I haven't met that I didn't love. There's not a trim that I haven't met. And I just kind of throw everything in the kitchen sink in it. That's really my style.
That's great. So when you did that, did you make the garment and then someone would buy it, or did they come to you and say, I want something for her and this is what I want, and then you made it specifically for that client?
So a little bit of both. We would have these sales. So I was part of a design collective, a group of design artists, garment artists, bag makers that came from all over the globe, and we would be on theme. So sometimes it would be a holiday theme. Sometimes, if it was Halloween, I always loved Halloween themes. Sometimes it would be back to school, and I would make something, put something out. My kids would model it, and it turned into, can I just have that size? Your daughter or your son is the same size as mine. So it was very much, like, okay, here's a ready to ship garment. And then it would be custom sizing also. So if someone saw something that wasn't in that size, then I would recreate that outfit for them. And then a lot of custom work. I had a lot of clients that would say, I'm going on vacation. This is where we're going. Can you make something specialty for that? Or we have a family trip or a family reunion. So that was a lot of fun. A lot of clients coming to me and saying, here's what we're doing. Here's my measurements, make it to size, but surprise me and do what you want. That's always typically when I have the most fun, is when someone just kind of says, this is the theme, but let your imagination run wild, and getting that opportunity to surprise them. So that's the most fun that I've had in doing a lot of my commissioned work. I don't take very much commissioned work anymore. When I do get that opportunity to do it and someone just says, my favorite color is teal, or I want something with that collection, for instance, and then surprise me. That's always the best. That's the most exciting with it.
That's really terrific. So do you meet with people ahead of time to measure them, or do they just send you their measurements? Do you do this all for local people or anywhere around?
No, it was really strange. I did not have very many local clients at all. A lot of people were in different parts of the world, totally different time zones. So I would get to meet them over social media. So I guess the beauty of social media and technology is that we were able to connect that way, and just kind of, breaking it down and saying for them, okay, here are the measurements, and I would have my charts of this is where I need you to measure. And there were so many families that I created for a lot of years that just naturally, as kids grow, you kind of, will say, oh, you had a growth spurt, like, wow, they grew 4 inches since the last time. So no, not a lot of local people, like my kids, obviously, but, most often when I'm creating for someone, it's here's how and where I need you to measure. Sometimes now we can jump on something, but Zoom wasn't a thing. FaceTime wasn't a thing.
Right.
It was just through messaging and sending pictures back and forth.
Wow. Well, that's really fun. So then at some point you transitioned into purses and bags and wearable ensembles, even quilted sneakers, which I have so much enjoyed seeing. So I'm just going to turn things over to you and let you show us some of the projects you've made and tell us about your process of how you choose fabrics and designs and put everything together. So it's all yours.
Yeah, great. So the way that I got into quilting, actually, like a lot of people, was we had the pandemic, right? And we had a lot of fabric that was hanging around, and it was one of the only types of sewing that I hadn't dabbled in yet. So I just one day said, I think I'm just gonna make a quilt. So that's literally what I did. I just pulled out a stack of fabric and I just started, piecing things together. And I very quickly learned, like, I can take my, my quilt making and learn how to foundation paper piece and turn that into garments, which I love. So I kind of combine those two things together. So I just wrapped up the Untamed tour as a circle maker for Free Spirit Fabrics. So I made this denim vest that you see deconstructed and upcycled. It's got an applique on the back of it, some wide leg pants, and then of course I made a whole ensemble of bags. So we'll start with the place for everything because that's the one that's sitting the closest to me. So on my Untamed tour, I decided to kind of let the fabrics do a lot of the speaking. They're very bright, they're over the top, which I super love, a ton of the neons. And, I didn't really want to cut a bunch of stuff up more smally. So I worked with a bunch of ribbon. I worked with different webbing. This is the new Sally Tomato hardware that they had sent me, in Tula's pink. So that was a lot of fun. But these very large scale blooms, I went back and forth trying to decide, how did I want to quilt them? Did I want to quilt them? Typically when I'm designing something, I like to take something that's a little bit larger scale and put it with something smaller scale so that they can play off and complement each other really well, and have that distinction of color in between. So if I, for instance, have something dark as my base here, which this is like that darker teal, I chose a lighter zipper so that that would pop out, echoed with a multicolored, binding on the top with something a little bit more grounding and balanced for there. On the zipper loop, I used the impending bloom, which I loved because it was super tiny scale compared to the large scale on it. And it's a great non-directional fabric where I could just let that super geometric quilting kind of show off the top. So I echoed on the back of it with more of the print and left it unquilted on this one just to kind of show that off, and let the fabric do more of the talking on that. So the inside of that one, I worked with a whole bunch of different colorways and had super fun with the pages. Did some mesh on this side with some neon and just echoed something super grounding and basic on the back of the pages, which I like to do. Typically when I'm looking at a page, because lots of us have different ways that we like to approach our pages, I'm going to put lots of stuff in my pages, for instance, and so I want to see that fabric as much as possible. Whereas in the back of my pages, I'm probably going to put quilt blocks or patterns or something in the back of those. So I keep that fabric a little bit more basic, my coordinates on the back. This one has the zipper side to it. And so I like to do something fun on these zippers where, like how you do in the inside of your bags, you have that top mesh bit right there. So I added that so that my zipper wasn't running all the way up to the top of it. So I could add the double binding, which I really liked. I love the small scale check of that next to the large dot because it brought in the neon all the way. And then I used ribbon on the inside with this raindrop, which I just absolutely loved. This super bright ribbon, I allowed the mesh to the white mesh. I typically pick white mesh because it allows my fabric to dance through the design of the fabric a little bit more. And then this rainbow multicolored allowed me just to put anything that I wanted in any of the rest of the pages. Once I get that rainbow in there, I can really work with any color. Even though technically the outside of the bag features a cool colorway, as you can see, the inside of this is actually that warm colorway, which was super fun. And then on the base strip, I got to bounce in a little bit more of that neon orange, which was great. So that was a place for everything. Liv decided that she wants to take this to school and put in makeup brushes and a first aid kit and a couple of other things. And I told her that this one was going to be mine and that I was going to put a bunch of thread in. There she is. That's Liv. That's my oldest. That's the one heading off. So she used to do all of my modeling for me, and Gabby did too when she was younger. So so she was just kind of toting it around. She knows just what to do with it, and she loved going through them because some of this is the first time that she gets to see them. Some of this I still like to leave for surprises for my kids. I'm not a big surprise person, but my family is. They love a surprise, and it's always fun to kind of watch her go through everything and take a peek. So that was a place for everything. I paired her. I paired her outfit with the bowl me over with the pants, which you can see better in the pictures. I have them on right now, but I'm going to kind of let the pictures do the talking on that because she looked a little bit better in them. But I did the bowl me over, which is probably one of my very favorite patterns of yours, Annie. I love the shape of a bowler bag. I love that it has just enough for me to carry everything in. It has all the accents that I want to add. So I got to have a lot of fun on the thread of this. So I don't know if I can get it close enough, but you can see I used all the Aurifil neon thread in there and stitched in individually into each of those petals. And I like to do that on a smaller area because then it doesn't feel so overwhelming to have to do a super large area to quilt. And it brings something special and super dimensional to those spots. So I love your bowl me over. I made a bunch of them. I'm going to show another colorway of it, another fabric collection of it. But my students actually made this one in June. So we're doing a bag maker series. We did bowl me over in June, Travel Essentials 2.0 in June. We're doing round trip duffel right now and out to lunch. So they all finished up their bowl me overs, and it was really fun to see everyone's different color combination and what they picked out. Whereas I show some foundation paper piecing on the flap on my Roar one. This one was great because it allowed me to show off this big, bright, loud, oversized ribbon and then with the smaller facing right there. So I got 2 different ribbons. I got to pull in 2 different details there and just kind of let the fabrics do a lot of the talking. So you'll see me use lots of stripes in my bags. I love to use a stripe because it grounds and it kind of bases that out. And I like how a stripe interacts. So together with the super dark on this, this is Spirit from Everglow, True Colors stripes, along with the Check Please in Moonbeam. I think that's the one it is, with this awesome, like super bright Everglow ribbon. And then on the back of the bag, as you can see that Jake has posted, thank you so much, Jake, is the other Puppy Love. I'm going to try to remember all of them with more ribbon on the back of it to echo both pieces there. So I got to bring in another fabric to use there. But I love the flap. It's a great place to put everything in. It's just kind of this little hidden bit, and I put more. I lined the whole bag in this super bright colorway of the neon. So it was super fun to pull those 2 together. So that was Bowl Me Over. And then the last one that I made for this tour was Get Out of Town 2.1. This was the first time I had made this bag. I have made a whole bunch of your duffel bags. I was looking for something that was going to be the right size for Liv to take to the gym. So that way she had a little bit of mom with her while she was there. Also something that was super bright and colorful that wasn't going to go missing and that she could just kind of have fun. It, would warm up. Sometimes our days in Cleveland get a little dreary in the winter. So I used this big, huge, bold Daisy and Confused print on the outside of it. And to touch a little bit on how I had picked some of my fabrics for the other one versus smaller scale, this one ended up being one of those, I had just the right cut of fabric and literally the exact right size that I needed for this bag. So I stopped looking at that point. It was just meant to be that this was the pattern, this was the size bag. And then put on the bag and some of the Check Please that went with it, some more ribbon. And then what I really like to do, I love on a pocket, is to use the pocket to kind of show off either something that's fussy cut that you'll see on some of my other ones, or allowing me to work with some trim, which I love. I like to layer different pieces on top that are in different colors. So I really like how the neon came off of the Check Please on the side of it. With the ribbon, how it played off the green, off the purple, the blue and purple ribbon off the green and the blue, and how it all ties together with those little impending blooms. For me, that's really when I know that I'm onto something and it's right, and just to kind of let it be, is because they all just kind of marry together and they work. They allow your eye to rest without competing. So I did a little bit of that on the back as well, in the slip pocket on the back. And Liv was super excited because she was putting her hands in the bag and she put her phone in the bag and she said, Mom, I can put everything in here. And it was just the right size for her to take. So on the inside of the bag, which I'll show you, and I loved about this one is that because she can then wash the bag as she takes it to the gym because the stabilizer is removable, I appliqued a little flower heart. So a little hug from Mom. Yeah. So that's before I get all emotional with her going off to college, but that's in the base inside stabilizer. If you haven't made if someone hasn't made a Get Out of Town yet, they have a kid that's headed off or just for like a single night, it is probably one of my favorite sizes. It's going to store really, really well at college without being overwhelming. So those are the bags from Untamed. So now I will talk about these sneakers that are hanging out because I'm sure everyone is waiting to chat about those a little bit. So these are maybe my 7th or 8th pair of quilted sneakers that I made. These are for the Untamed. The fun bits that I put on these versus some of the others are I added some more ribbon on these. I love the gum colorway. They stay super clean. I still can use a pretty colored ribbon on them. I did these whole bright neon eyelets. I mean, like, Jade, they are so bright, aren't they? Like, they're like electrically bright. And I wanted to show off the Check Please on the outside of it, and then you can see it peeking from the inside. I used another colorway of it. So, I mean, you can really just see how the warm and the cool colorways work really well. So I am really excited for everyone to get this collection in October. Annie, I know you've had the opportunity to design with it as well, and it's so fun. So I did a little applique flower on the toe because I had just the right little spot. And sometimes that's just the way that it works out. I mean, once we have these fabrics, you know, cut out and you're kind of looking at your fabric, like a great opportunity with these extra little pieces in this bit, you know, these bits that once we have Swiss cheese in our fabric is cut it down, break it apart, use it in EPP, use it as an applique. That's how I like to think of lots of different stuff. Adding those little surprise details that you might not expect. You might not expect, oh my gosh, there's an applique flower on the toe, but it's so cute. It's definitely a conversation starter. So I added some ribbons on the back so that she can easily grab those sneakers and pull them on. And she had said as she was walking around in them, they're so comfortable, Mom. And I said, I know they really are. So those were my Untamed projects.
Didn't you even make the shoestrings for those too?
I did. So that's that's a fun little one that I'm going to be putting out for my Aurifil challenge for August. We had a scrap challenge, and I had just like the exact 6 inches, as I was telling you, of what I needed to make for the shoestrings. So I said to Liv, I left it up to her. I said, what do you want to do? Do you want the shoelaces? And she said, I really like these because then I can see the pink underneath. And I said, all right, I'll relace them for the other one. So I'm really excited to share those too. The new shoelaces that I made, they have rainbow aglets on the end of them. Maybe I'll see if we can grab them. I don't know where they're hiding in my studio right now. But yeah, I had completely forgotten that I had shown them to you and then popped these out because Liv said, oh, put those in. They look so cute. So.
Well, that'll give us something to look forward to for another time if you don't find them. Don't worry.
Yeah. Awesome. So that takes me through all my Untamed stuff. So Tabby Road, which Julia had talked about a little bit today. And I know the Minky is hitting stores and the fabric is going to be hitting stores soon. So that seems kind of like a natural, let's talk about that next since I've got it right here. So the court side was the bag that I chose for, thank you, Jade. So court side was the bag that I chose. I love this bag. I love a big bag also. So hopefully I can keep it in shot, but I love a big bag because I can literally put everything under the sun in this bag and I get to put it on my back, which is great because then I get to keep my hands free to touch all the fabric and pick up your patterns and, you know, grab all the rest of the stuff for the next bag that I'm going to make. So I really enjoyed this one because it had the backpack straps on it. One of the things that I did do, and I will say this before someone asks, is those straps look removable and detachable. I did make mine detachable so that I can tuck them in to the back if I'm not carrying it as a backpack, and then I can just use my carrying handles on the top. So with Courtside, I really enjoyed what you did with this pattern. I knew that I wanted to do Club Kitty on one side of it, on the side of the zippered pocket that had the big, huge space to really open up the motif, and use something smaller on the other side. So it was a great opportunity, whereas it still would have looked equally beautiful to bring the same fabric to both sides. Part of what I look for when I'm featuring a new fabric or when I'm making a project is what little bits can I work in to try to show off as much as possible. So Club Kitty was great here. I'm obsessed with these cat snacks. It's been one of my favorite prints, going all the way back to the original Tabby Road, working in some more salvage and some ribbon there and a little bit of this Disco Lucy at the bottom because the cat snacks allowed me to work in all of the full rainbow to take this little perfect piece of fabric that I had from all of my makes left over and work it in. So no piece of fabric goes left unwasted. And then with the zipper on the front of it to show off more of what was going on the inside. So on the cat snacks on the side, I loved a foundation paper piece, as you know. And if you've been following me for a while, you know that I like to work in those little details. Foundation paper piecing for me is really focused and it's very detailed. So it kind of allows my brain to slow down and just really be focused on that work. So on the side of it, you have these, again, as I had talked about, huge pockets that I love that you put on your bags. I always pick out one of your bags as a pocket because I love a pocket. And I did this Fishy Bones foundation paper piecing. It is a free pattern. If you go out and Google, literally just Google Fishy Bones FPP pattern, and it should pop right on up. Great pattern to follow, relatively easy piecing, but super enjoyable because it was exactly the right size for the pocket. Some of the things that I've put on your bags, I've either sized up or sized down, but this one was just right, which was perfect because then it allowed me to show off all the way around the rest of it. What I like about bags and garments, because they're three-dimensional, is I like to look at it all of the way around. So you get a different angle and you get different details as you work around the bag. I think that bags are really great that way. It's special. So if I'm walking away, you might see the back of me, but then I turn And then all of a sudden you get the pocket. And then if I take my bag off, then it's resting there. And if I put it over luggage or if I'm just holding it over one shoulder, garments are much like bags in that manner that I like to think through them 360 degrees all the way around so that you get a little different bit to enjoy, no matter which angle you're looking at everything from. So that was the courtside bag. I also made I'm going to grab my coat and hopefully she doesn't take over. This was my coat that I made for Tabby Road. Hopefully we can see that a little bit better. I foundation paper pieced to like the ends of the earth on this coat. It has so many excellent opportunities to bring in all of these different solids, whereas I don't normally reach for a solid. On this one, I knew I wanted to work in a ton of solids because there's just such a great opportunity to show off how they all work together with a bunch of the true colors, and working all of those in and allowing those to kind of be the stars, even though they're just in like smaller areas and smaller pieces, and then allowing that applique to kind of work in as well. So all foundation paper pieced, showing off the fabric and using lots of different bits all the way around. As you can see in the image on the screen, the back of the bag is great because you get the back of the coat and the back of the bag as you're coming and going. And if you see me from the front or see me from the side, you're going to get a different little bit of detail every way you go around. So that was the coat that I made for that one. And then the quilted sneakers were perfect because I got to put on my cat snacks on the toes. I had the best fabric salvages. Like, look at these little tiny mice on this one. I had the absolute best fabric salvages in this box that came in. So I used them everywhere. I cut them right off the fabric right away. And I saved them. So then that way I always have them for my next project. But I left the quilting pretty alone because I just kind of wanted the cats, to be the star and just kind of let that be. I did do rainbow eyelets down them because that's adorable. It's a rainbow. And then those were my quilted sneakers for Tabby Road. So I'm super excited to have yardage because I have a whole bunch of plans and different things that I want to make and all sorts of selfish sewing bags that I'm going to make for myself out of Tabby Road, to work in all of the true colors and the coordinates that, go with that collection. As you know, they're beautiful. So I think that was everything from Tabby Road. So we should be up to Roar projects, which is super great. I've got my Roar coat behind me. I'm going to talk about the bags that I've been doing because I am doing that bag maker series. So for all my local quilters and bag makers, hello to everyone at Pins and Needles. That's my local shop. It's where I bought my very first sewing machine. It's where I bought every sewing machine. I've been teaching at Pins and Needles for a little bit over a year now. I think I have hands down the best students in the world. And I thank them for coming back week after week to take class with me. We've done some foundation paper piecing. We did a foundation paper piece quilt, and we've been doing bag maker series since February. So far, we have made Take a Stand, Running with Scissors, Tools of the Trade. June was Bowl Me Over and Travel Essentials 2.0. July is Out to Lunch and Round Trip Duffel, and August is A Place for Everything and Drop Zone. So that's kind of our finale to take us all the way through the summer. So we're going to start with A Place for Everything. This was out of Roar, and this gave me an opportunity. The difference that I talked about between this Roar bag and my A Place for Everything on Untamed is whereas this one I left no quilting on the exterior front pocket, this one I really just allowed the fabric to talk to me, and I was able to quilt in and really accentuate every single detail that Tula put in this fabric, down to like the tiny diamonds that are in here, outlining the dinosaurs, working through the tail that's all individually quilted. So as you get this dimension, as you look at the bag, oh yes, good, okay, I can pick it up. You really get to enjoy the fabric for really the artistry that's in it. Because if you take the time to sit and look at the fabric, there's so much going on here that is just, it just blows your mind that I wanted to work with it as long as possible. So if I've really, really quilted something to death, that means that it's definitely a favorite fabric, and I really just wanted to do a little bit of justice to that. So I use more Roar selvage. I love to put the fabric salvages on it. And it also kind of speaks to when someone says, oh, what's that fabric collection? I can say, well, it's right there. This ribbon is from Tula's Homemade line, and I have no joke, rolls of this. It's probably one of my favorite ribbons of all time. I've put it on so many things for so long, and I will be very sad the day that I run out. But I like to throw it on there because I'm a maker and that's what it is. So on the back of it, I used a different piece of fabric or a different portion of the same piece of fabric in this monochromatic, and again quilted um, in that big design. Divided this one down the center, which was awesome because it's super symmetrical. So it gave me that straight line, so that way I can work smart and not hard about where that needs to be divided. And then the monochromatic of the color of the fabric playing against the white True Colors fairy dust. It allows me to bring in that rainbow, but it really focuses your eye on that fabric. So it's really a supporting fabric. And then that allows me to bring in the different color that's going to be on my zipper loop all the way down. So I actually have something super funny about the way that I do zippers and the way that I set up my colors across the top. And I don't know because I'm going to try to remember if I'm in the reverse. My bag students will know this. I actually follow, if I'm using a rainbow zipper, the color of the rainbow as it works around the bag. I know Jade's laughing at me. She's thinking, of course she overthought it to that nth degree. But it will tend to also follow the fabric as it goes through. And I love to use something that's symmetrical, a stripe or a design or something across your zipper panels. And it's why I will reach for your patterns that have these zipper loops on them, because it allows me to work across that zipper and look super fantastic just based upon cutting the fabric down the middle and then trimming from the outside. So that's a little pro tip. Every time that I do my zippers, I will cut it to size, and then when I'm trimming it down, I will, as you've directed us in our patterns, to cut across from the center, right? And then I can get this perfect match side to side, not only in my fabric, but the way that I've quilted it. And you can really see that in this one, cutting it down the center, the quilting that goes across the center exactly in line. Basically, because I read your pattern and it says measure down the center of the zipper to trim, so that you get the perfect straight down the center. So, little pro tip. In the inside, because I had so much going on the outside, and I knew that I was going to fill this one up with thread. So if you've seen the pictures of this one filled up with thread, I can throw 60 small spools of Aurifil thread in it. As an Aurifil artisan, I love having all of those colors at hand for me. And that is the thread that I work from all of the time. That's the thread that I use to build my bags out. So this page, knowing that I was going to fill it up with thread, didn't really need anything else going on. I allowed the moon garden to come in, which was great. Jade and I were talking earlier about some of our favorite fabrics that are going to work really well with other things, and this lazy stripe is definitely one of those. So I used the white fairy dust for the pages and the hexie for the page back. But then on the inside of it, I used the aqua fairy dust, which is one of my favorites, because it allowed me to get another color in. So I'm going to typically work in minerals, hexies, and fairy dust as my three favorite true colors. I like all of them. I will always reach for a mineral because it reads as a solid to me. And then I still get that little pop of layering on top of that. So that was a place for everything. My Bowl Me Over, thank you, Jade. This one I loved. I had these little offcuts from working with this Northern Lights fabric in my influencer projects from all of the foundation paper piecing that I did on my coat. So I had all of these offcuts and in my pants as well. And I knew it was going to be the perfect place for me to put some foundation paper piecing. So I made this bag back in May in preparation for my summer bag maker series. I actually took it with me to Chicago, anticipating that I might carry it around, but ended up with every day, every way because it was bigger and it held all my stuff all day long. So I threw some foundation paper piecing on here because it seemed super obvious to me to do tiny scale here against large scale of the dinosaur and work in the rainbow color of the ribbon. I talked about using my stripe and something that was going to go across the top, and that's exactly what I did on the top of this bag, so that you had that perfect stripe all the way through. And then accenting with the fun ribbons here on the front, as well as on the back. So one of the things that I love about this bag is because the way that you laid out and constructed how the back pocket goes together. So for anyone that hasn't made a bowl me over, that's a pattern they need to pick up and make. It will very quickly become one of your favorite bags. I use a different fabric to wing it on the back with more different ribbons here. So again, as I'm coming and going, you're going to get a different look all of the way around, which is great. You kind of get to enjoy a lot of different fabrics and a lot of different details in one kind of compact, easy, every single day, take it with me. It's going to fit exactly what I need to carry and no much more, nothing more than what I absolutely need in that bag. So to pair with this one, I did an out to lunch, which shouldn't be a surprise that I love the shape of this bag because it's also similarly bowler size with a bit more depth on it. I'm going to hand you that one before I drop or throw a bag through my camera at Annie. I did out to lunch because I love a bag set. So as soon as I had Roar in my hands, I knew I'm going to be making a billion bags in Roar because I love this fabric. I love the colors. I love the dinosaurs. It allows me to kind of be a big kid and be super whimsical. And it has my favorite color, which is teal, in a lot of the different fabrics. While it's not included in your pattern, one of the things that I love to do in yours, because you give us such an opportunity to work in larger spaces, is to work in more foundation paper piecing at the top. I love a crossbody strap, so I absolutely made my crossbody strap. So my little D-rings are hidden, which was super smart the way that you have those hidden inside. And then with the wide stripe, I added this teeny tiny ribbon, the tiny dot, next to the stripe, because it gave a balance of a large scale fabric against a tiny scale detail, and then kind of combined with everything else that was going on with the bag. So I try not to veer too far off of when I'm making one of your patterns, because I find it has everything packed into it that I need, that I can just do, the fun creative work and add my little touches and my little details right on top. So that was out to lunch, and it's a fantastic, this is the large size. There's a smaller size. I made the larger size. It's a fantastic, I can carry this with me as I'm carrying Bowl Me Over. But that it's still a great complement to the Bowl Me Over, but a little bit smaller, that I can work in a lot of the same stuff. So it's a set. It's a great gift. I made one of these for Gabby's 8th grade teacher at the end of the year. My teachers get bags also. Well, Mr. Havel got quilted sneakers. But my teachers get bags as their holiday gifts and end of the year gifts. So depending on how long they had, my 3 kids as they moved through, some of them have a whole host of a bag set, lots and lots of ByAnnie bags in their collection at this point. So I just made an out to lunch, and that was by request. She had said, you made me all these bags, and I saw this, this lunch bag that you had made, and that's what I would like for the end of the year. So I got to make that for Miss Cuevas at the end of the year. So that was fun. Okay, so again, as I'm kind of working in this, you'll see very quickly, I definitely have a favorite. I love how you shape your zipper loops. This is every day, every way. This bag was super fun. This was the one I carried to H&H with me in Chicago when I got to meet you for the first time. So this was super fun because you had all of my favorite parts of a bag. Tons of space on the front to get really creative with. Side pockets, which I love, so I can include a tiny motif fussy cut, but also throw a detail on. A big, huge back pocket that allowed me to just let the fabric kind of be the way that it was. And then you give us 3 different options to carry. So the carrying handles, as you can see here, an adjustable crossbody strap, which can come off on the sides, and the backpack straps, which are completely detachable. I think I carried it all 3 ways when I was in Chicago, just based upon what I had in my hands. And the bellowed pocket on the inside, which I absolutely love. I love your bellowed pockets because I can stick everything into it and still have room as I was shopping and enjoying everyone throughout that area. So again, added some detailed ribbons, small scale here against the large scale on the top front of it, with a medium scale on the side. And they all just kind of work really well together. This was an opportunity to use some foundation paper piecing against this black and white. And I did a whole bunch of super fun, different triple stitching in here with this Aurifil thread, which was great because it came off of each individual ray in its individual color as it matched. It was super fun. So this was every day, every way. And I think this was the one I carried every day in Chicago. I have everything. Jade's looking at me nodding, going, yes, you did. So that was every day, every way. Also in my influencer tour for, well, we'll do round trip duffel first before I jump into the sneakers and the coat. So this is the bag that we're making in class right now. It is the size down from Travel Duffel 2.1. I picked this bag for several reasons. So I love a partial gusset, so that way I don't have to fight with my bag when I'm opening it. And I'm always trying to overstuff my bag. So I love this one for that reason. I find it to be an excellent size. It's just a little bit bigger than Ultimate Travel Bag when I need to hold a little bit more, but it's a little bit smaller than the, it just escaped my mind.
Travel duffel.
Travel duffel. Thank you. Travel duffel 2.1. Or yeah. And I like to keep my storage on the inside. So the inside of it has the fabric slip pocket that's divided in 3 ways, a full height zipped mesh pocket, and then it has my outside pocket. So I love your combination pocket, so I can slide my phone in right there, but then also keep anything secure in the front pocket. And then it kind of allowed me to have this big, huge space, whereas normally I would take something that's a little bit more, like a larger motif. I love these dino eggs, so I just kind of left the dino eggs. Like, give me a teal and a lime every single day of the week, and then focus on just this little guy right here on the front, a big, huge scaled ribbon, and then on the sides, using a different fabric and doing something fun, fussy cut there in the pocket with more ribbon. So it just allowed me to bring in a complementary fabric onto the side of it, whereas I had just the right size of pocket needed there because I had used this fabric in my pants. And so I just kind of had this guy like hanging out ready to be cut. So it was perfect. And then on the back, I just echoed more of what was on the front. Trolley sleeve, which was great. I also love this because it goes right over my tutu trolley. So when I have my machine, it can just sit right on top, and I can put a quilt, a project, sneakers, a bag, supplies for making a quilt, go into a retreat. It's literally just the right size with the slip pocket on the back. So this is the one we're making right now. This was the one that Jade joined us in class. On Tuesday, we have one more class, and they are doing a great job. They're going to finish up with it next Tuesday. And it's so fun to see what everyone works with. Everyone works with completely different fabrics and colors, and they're really true to themselves, which is great because they just get to make what they want and where they're going. So it's fun to watch their bag sets come together. Some do full sets where everything is going to match all the way across. Some will mix and match, and it's always different colors. I love how they're really embracing looking at your patterns differently and saying, oh my gosh, Elissa, I can throw a ribbon on that. Oh, on the side pocket, I'm going to do this. I'm going to throw some embroidery on that. I'm going to do something small on that zipper, which they probably didn't think about or had never considered a couple of months ago when they first set out to make bags. So it's really fun to watch them do that now. So that's Round Trip Duffel. And then the last one that I did is your new drop zone, which is super fun. And that's the end of our summer finale. I did them in Roar. They are, in my opinion, the perfect opportunity to use those little small bits of fabric. I knew I was going to drop one of them. To use those small bits of fabric that you have left over from your other projects that you might have quilted out. This one was super fun because I get my Triceratops all the way around, and I did the directional. I followed your directions so that it was
that turned out
directional.
so well. Yeah, the placement on that is perfect.
Yeah, so that way he's walking across it, from both sides. And then the inside of it, I just left it with the super multicolor on the inside of that one.
Very fun.
So this little one was so fun because you've got this little, it's the littlest details in this larger scale fabric that just kind of popped out. So the little pterodactyl flying there. And then I threw wristlet straps on it. And then again, because it's a border print, using the exact same fabric, just a different part of it, gives you a totally different look on the inside. You would think it was from 2 different fabrics. So it's just a great way to use up all of those. And then this one had Wing It on the inside. So the rainbow on the outside with Wing It on the inside. And when you sit down and use it, you have your little pterodactyl flying across, kind of holding those things. So that directional floral bloom swooping up. at you. So yeah, it was
Very
super
fun.
fun. And you can see the inside side panels that I used is just that hexie, that True Colors hexie all the way through. It goes across all three of those and worked really, really well. So I got to economy cut those. I did wristlet straps on them. I love how you encouraged us to add those swivel hooks to the end so that you can attach it to a bag. I can turn around and attach it right to the front of, you know, any of my other bags. So if I want to throw this on a place for everything, it's just going to sit right there and it's going to have it. This one, I would probably put the small one on this one, but I like to put these on my round trip duffel. They're a great size and they sit right on those sides, especially if I'm not carrying it crossbody. So those were all of my Roar bags. So for my Roar shoes, for my influencer tour, I probably made 3 or 4 different pairs of Roar quilted shoes because I'm obsessed with this collection. So these are my current favorite. I teach in these frequently. I did some thread painting in these, so you can kind of see a little bit more up close, like the fun thread painting in those. But I fussy cut the dinosaurs on the sides. Used more fabric salvage. I'm getting myself turned around now on the outside of those. And it was really fun because the dinosaur in this collection, he's facing 2 different ways. So it was great whichever way you're walking. And then if you think about walking, you know, you get different looks as you're walking, each different direction that you're going. So on my quilted coat, I did a ton of foundation paper piecing on this one. I'm going to pop her down so we can get this a little bit more in the shot. So my quilted coat, when I got this collection, I knew I really, really wanted to emphasize the wing it. So the wing it is one of my very favorites in this entire collection. So if you look at my coat from far away and then you look at the up close of this actual motif in the floral right there, you'll see that the foundation paper piecing that runs around it actually echoes the colors that are in that fan flower, which I try to do and pull out because then it draws your eye into those individual parts of the fabric, and it allows you to almost make like the secondary pattern that's happening and work in more of that dimension of what's going on. So there's a lot going on in it, but there's a place to rest your eye and kind of take in all of the bits as a whole. So whereas like on the side of the sleeves where there's a ton going on with the applique, as you can see in the picture on screen, I allow those fairy flakes in paper to be the base of it and take more rainbow running down the side. So your eye really does have a place to rest in between a lot of the over the top details and the side stuff that's happening. And then you kind of just get to take it in all the way around. The back of it has a mandala. I always say it wrong, mandala. This is actually from the Harmony Block of the Month by Rochelle. And Rochelle, I'm going to apologize because I'm probably going to mispronounce your last name. Deneni, she is out of Australia. This is an enlarged Harmony block that I took from her program. I really, really enjoyed learning her method of applique and fusing. And you'll see it on the back of my denim vest. I like to really work this in. It allows you to take different size shapes and lots of different fabrics and really work them together and make something really explosive. So that's on the back of the quilt. And then the back of the coat, and then just did some straight line stitching to kind of be that accent bit. So I lined the inside of this one with fairy dust. I said, it's one of my favorites. It has a zipper guard, inseam pockets on the side, and just this fairy dust here because there was so much going on with the outside of the coat that I just kind of wanted to let all of that be the star on that one. Whereas on my Tabby Road, I did line it with Minky because it's Minky and it's glorious and so soft and cuddly. But this one is a little bit lighter because it just has the fairy dust on the inside of it. I think that was everything I was going to talk about. Did I get through it? Did I miss anything?
Oh my gosh, you did. One thing you forgot to mention is that you were a star of the runway at H&H with that outfit, right?
Oh my goodness. Oh, and I literally have my pants sitting right here. Yes. So Free Spirit Fabrics extended this amazing invitation to have my Roar outfit walk the runway at H&H Americas. So these are the pants that I made. First they said, can we please borrow your coat, your shoes, and your bag and walk the runway. Oh, and by the way, will you make us some pants? And it was such a great opportunity because I knew it was a showpiece. So it didn't have to be something that was super every single day, because I don't know that I'll walk down the street wearing these, even though they looked amazing on the runway. And I have to tell you, I had the most adorable model. Like, she was the cutest. And she absolutely just like owned what she was wearing and worked them. These are 1,500 individual foundation paper piece cuts. And they were just super, super fun to make. So yeah, so front seamed, inseam pockets, fully lined. I designed because I get asked this frequently, what's the quilt pattern? Where did you get the pants? So I actually designed these. I designed the quilt tops. I made 2 quilt tops because only crazy people make quilt tops to cut them apart into garments, right? So I made 2 quilt tops, and then in EQ8, designed them in EQ8 so I could audition where I wanted those fabrics to land, the size of the block that I wanted to have, and versus me sitting down with a ruler and a protractor, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I will probably likely have a tendency to not make straight lines because I don't draw by trade. So I like to open up my EQ8 and work in the software there. They're going to have the lines and the arcs and everything. And I can pop in all of my fabrics and really get an idea of what it's going to look like, how much fabric I'm going to need to accomplish that, and try out different things without having to cut my fabric up. And really audition at first. I'm really big about auditioning something first, laying it down, trying different things, taking a picture of it, stepping back and saying, does that work? Do I like that? And sometimes if I'm not sure, I'll leave it on my workspace overnight, and I'll come back in the next day and say, that's right, that's not. More frequently than not, those are my puppies barking outside of my studio. I apologize if you can hear them, Annie. But more frequently than not, I'll wake up in the middle of the night with some epiphany, and I'll need to come upstairs right away and grab fabrics off of my shelves, lay them down with a pattern, lay them all out, throw some zipper tape on top of them, and then just come back up in the morning and look at it and say, yes, that's right, or no, that's not, and change it. But typically I can see it in my brain, all said and done. Then it just comes down to, do I have the right spots that I really want to focus on in the fabric? So if I can see it in my brain, I know that I can make it happen in fabric, or I will work at it until I've made it happen in fabric. So yes, thank you for reminding me. It was such a treat. Thank you so much to the team at Free Spirit Fabrics for inviting me to be a part of that. To Nancy and the whole team. And I feel really fortunate to be one of the circle makers, because it's such a treat to work with Tula Pink Fabrics and sew for Tula and know her and her team, and to have the opportunity to meet you and Jade and collaborate with all of us and just have that fun and work together now and in the future is it's a treat. Like, it's one of those, like, someone pinch me, because I'm probably dreaming and I'm going to wake up at some point, but it really is. I remind myself to stay humble about it, to try to stay super humble about it, because it absolutely is a privilege, and I do know how fortunate I am to have the opportunity. So yeah, so it was great and super fun.
Yeah, and I have to agree that meeting you and Jade at H&H was really the highlight of my show too. It was so fun to see that ensemble in person, because I mean, that pair of pants and all the piecing on those was absolutely phenomenal. You just don't get the same effect of it seeing a picture or even seeing it on the screen. Seeing that in person was amazing. And everything that you wore every day that you were there, I mean, people were stopping you in the aisles constantly. I don't know how you made it through the show, because you were definitely a showstopper with that. So it was really fun. And so I'm really glad that we got to share these with our viewers today. I also really appreciated you sharing kind of your thought process of what you think through as you design. I'm going to go home tonight and put this on my TV so I can look at it up close, because I can't see the things on the screen well enough, and I really want to study that. But it will be nice to have this as a reference to look back to, because you shared so many tips. I mean, this isn't going to be an episode that people are going to want to watch once. They're going to want to watch it several times to learn about all the things that you shared, because you're a master at combining everything together and just really making a cohesive whole. So Thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing all that with us. And I know people are going to be really excited to hear that you teach classes. So can you share a little bit more information about, because you're not just teaching at Pins and Needles, but share how people can connect with you, see your schedule, see the projects that you're making, and be inspired.
Yeah, absolutely. So the place that I share everything, like as I'm working through a project or my most recent stuff, is always going to be on Instagram. That's the first place that I'm going to hit. You can find me on Instagram at quilting_Elissa, ELISSA, or on Pins and Needles, Facebook, Elissa Ziccardi. My website is quiltingelissa.com. So not hard to remember that. I do keep an updated list of everything that I'm working through in terms of classes and events. So locally, I'm at Pins and Needles teaching throughout the summer. I have some national events coming up. I'll be in Cincinnati in a week and a half doing a lecture and trunk show there on quilted garments as well as quilted sneakers. For those looking, in the Mid-East area, I have a quilted sneaker workshop at Pins and Needles in Middleburg Heights on October 12th. A new event that just got added over the weekend after my Roar retreat at the Sewing Box Quilt Shop in Myersdale, Pennsylvania. So, hey, April and Bolt, and shout out to everyone that came and spent the weekend with me at the Big Bang Quilt retreat this weekend. I have quilted sneakers there. In the new year, I'm going to be in the Atlanta area doing some events there. I'm going to be doing a teach-in extravaganza out at the Quilt Crossing in Boise, Idaho. Out with Laura and her team. We're going to be doing quilted sneakers and quilted coat. And the newest one that got added and recently announced is I'm joining the faculty for the Mackinac Island Quilting Arts Seminar that will be this April and May on Mackinac Island. I'm super excited. 2 days of quilted sneakers, a 3-day quilted coat workshop, as well as a lecture on bag making. I will have almost all of my ByAnnie samples, as many as I can possibly travel with, there, and getting into everything. If you're a shop, a guild, a retreat host or event planner that is looking to get in touch with me, the best way to do that is through my website, and then kind of building what you're looking for and what's going to be perfect for your clientele. I have lectures, trunk shows, hands-on instruction, full day stuff, all sorts of stuff. So lots of fun, quilting, bag making, shoes, quilted garments, all that stuff.
Yeah, you can just dress people from head to toe, and they'll have so much fun making all of it. So that's so much fun. I really, really enjoyed seeing your website with your classes, all the classes that you did. And not only just, that you're doing it, but the photos that you put in there are so very inspiring. And I know people that take a class from you are going to learn so much. So thank you very much for doing that. Before we go, I want to do a little Q&A. And so if you guys are watching and have any questions for Elissa, be sure to add them to the chat, and Randy will post them there. In the meantime, I have some questions of my own.
Yeah,
so
I'm going to grab some water. I talked a lot.
You did talk a lot. I can't believe you didn't drink any water throughout that. I'm almost through a bottle and a half already, and I haven't been talking. But it's hot in here.
I can't believe it either.
I nearly heard that before.
That's her laughing on the side. She was ready. I mean, she has me all hydrated. Like, I've got water, I've got an energy drink. Like, she has me like all hydrated and ready to go. So
that's awesome. Well, we'll take a sip or two. Yeah. So the first question I have is that a lot of times when you're working with Tula's amazing fabrics and you're fussy cutting them for certain areas, and you were good at mentioning this, that you don't waste anything, but there can be a lot of stuff that's cut around and not used. So I think you covered this a little bit, but do you take all those pieces that are left over and use those for your foundation piecing? I loved how you said you put little bits on the toes of the shoes and stuff, so many ways, but talk a little bit about how you store those and how you deal with that.
Yeah, so typically what I like to do is I will look at a piece and say, if I'm going to keep my motif as large as possible, where can I cut that from strategically on the fabric so that I can keep as much yardage intact and working around those individual bits. So if it's smaller than a fat quarter, it's going to go in the bins literally right behind me, as you see on screen with all those drawers. They're sorted by rainbow colors, so I will have coordinates that will go all the way down one that are my basics. So any of my true colors, my stripes, my dots, my solids are going to go in one, and then any prints are going to go right underneath it. I'm a super highly organized maker. I get asked frequently because my space is pretty immaculate. Jade would agree. She's nodding off camera right now. I can be my best focused self and really focus on what I'm working on, especially when it's very precise and small, technique stuff, is if I keep my space clean. And then it also helps me go and reach for those spots. So if I'm going to foundation paper piece before I go and cut from yardage, the first place that I'm going to hit is my scrap bins, my scrap, buckets and baskets. I'm going to pull from there. That is always the first place that I go to with EPP also. So my English paper piecing, so all my hand sewing that I'm going to be doing, I'm going to pull from there as well. Especially when I'm picking one of your patterns that has pockets on the side of it, that's going to be the first place that I stop also before I go into my yardage, is I'm going to go and say, what did I save? What is there that I can use and focus on so that I can really be, the best and most mindful with my fabric. Now, that being said, I don't buy anything that's less than 5 yard cuts-ish. That's pretty much where I'm at. Because I know I'm going to sew through it in a heartbeat. And if I really, really love it, I'm just going to grab a bolt of it because I know that I'm going to eventually sew through it. And I'd rather just have all of those motifs and all those large parts available to me, especially when I'm making lots of bags and lots of sets, as I clearly did with Roar. So that's how I tend to use my scraps and store them. So I hope that was
was perfect. And thank you for sharing how much fabric you get, because I wondered about that. As many things as you make, 2 yards isn't going to go very far. So a bolt makes way more sense. And remind me not to invite you to my house, because I am not nearly that organized or clean. I'm embarrassed to say I cleaned before Jade came, and it's just steadily gotten worse ever since then. So when we get together again.
I did clean up a little bit before she came. My studio always looks pretty clean because it looks so pretty when I walk in, and then when it's clean, I want to make it messy and then clean it up again so I can walk back in. But she kind of looked at me because we've been on FaceTime while she's been here this summer, and she just went, "You're really that clean all the time?" And I said, "Yeah, a little bit, a little bit." It looks yeah.
That is impressive. I am not the same way. I clean. I clean, but it stays that way for about 5 minutes, and then when I'm focused on stuff, my room right now, I have, because I'm working on 4 new patterns for release this fall, and I've got prototypes and fabric that I want to do, and this big a pile of papers of all the versions of it we've gone through. And when I'm focused on pattern writing, I just can't focus on cleaning too. So it'll happen eventually. When I get done with patterns, then I'll take a few days and clean it all up again.
Yeah,
which will last for a day.
I strategically have rolling carts all over my studio that are hidden that you wouldn't see if you weren't standing behind. I'm staring at my cutting table off camera, and I have 2 rolling carts that are underneath it that are just stacked with stuff inside of it. So you can't really see it. There is a little bit of chaos happening, but it's strategically placed. So
yeah, and see, that's a lesson for me, because I have rolling carts under my table too, and they are packed full of fabric that I collected 25 years ago that I will probably never ever want to sew with. So I just need to get all that out and actually use that area for some of the other stuff that brings me more joy now. So good tip there. All right, let's see if our viewers have any questions. So first one was, when will you be releasing patterns and how-tos for the sneakers and the jacket? You knew that was going to be first, didn't you?
All 3 of us are laughing because we knew that was going to be asked. So I am a one woman, as Annie had mentioned earlier. She didn't start her business until her kids, were grown. Because apparently I love Chaos Loves Friends. And I'm in the busiest season. I am really a one woman. It's me all hours of the day. So when I can either invent the pause button to get those patterns finished, written up, and out. Right now, my sneaker pattern is available to event participants only. And that's not to gatekeep or to keep anyone out. I want to invite as many people to participate in that as possible. but knowing that it's just me and it would be just me responsible for all of the distribution, all of the rest of it, it's such an undertaking for anyone that is a small business owner, has maybe a small business owner in their family, large scale, small scale. It's just so much, work, as Annie, and as Jade and I were visiting about. There's so much that goes into the process of it that it is coming. I promise, I super promise, and I mean this like authentically from my heart. I'm not trying to keep anyone out or be selfish about it. It's just that I'm one person.
That's it. And you've got 3 kids at home. I can't imagine how you're doing what you're doing. I mean, you have totally, absolutely blown me away. The next question is, do you do Zoom classes?
I do not. I don't do Zoom classes because I'm doing so much in person right now. So I kind of do build around what is happening with my kids' schedules. They're super, super busy. We're constantly on the go. So unless I am physically in a classroom where I'm transporting somewhere, it's really difficult to stay as flexible, to still be a maker / sewist / instructor / chaperone on the go, as flexible as possible with my time. So Zoom classes, not right now. That's something I might entertain in the future if I get a little bit more balance with time. But as it exists right now, no Zoom classes.
Yeah, I would say you've got a few more years till the kids are on their way, because don't miss that time with them. That is so very important. Yeah. What machine do you use when you sew your bags?
I am working on a Bernina 790 Plus.
Okay.
After I had spoken with you at H&H and having the opportunity, I just got back from Bernina University in June. I started sitting down and learning my Bernina. So I was on a Janome previously. I will hands down say that my Bernina is just unbelievable. The machinery of it, the going, just flying through the bulk of it. When you get into a really bulky bag, it just seamlessly, just goes right on through. I love the dual feed. I love hover. I love the bobbin. I will go on like a Bernina tangent, so I'm gonna pause and stop myself. But I absolutely love their machines. I love everything that they're doing in education. And it really just overall, I'm looking for the best experience and making it as enjoyable as possible for me every single time I sit down in a machine. And that's what I have found. It just feels like an appendage. It just really feels like it's just an extension of what I'm doing. So all of my bags, everything that I showed actually was made on a Bernina. There was nothing that I showed that wasn't. Yeah, I'm looking around kind of like, was it? No, that was, yeah. So great question.
Yeah, that is a good question. And same with me. Bernina, I'm a Bernina all the way, although I use a lower level model than that. And one of these days I need to look at upgrading, but for now that works fine. I'm going to skip a few of these questions because there's more about sneakers and things, and I don't think those are going to be appropriate. But one question was, what size of flying geese did you use for paper piecing, and what FPP patterns do you use, and where do you get ones that fit? And from what I understand, you specifically design them to fit the project.
I do. So it will depend on the project. I wish that there was a better answer to say it's this pattern and you can go here and it's that. I can give a little bit and lend a little bit of some of my favorite books if you're looking to get into foundation paper piecing. I love Carl Hensch's New York Beauties and Flying Geese. I think that that's a great book that has a ton of geese. It has a ton of arcs and really just, some beautiful projects in it. So typically people that are saying, what book can I go and grab? I think it's a great, he has all the patterns in there and you can work.
Say his name again.
I really do design. I'm going to probably pronounce his last name wrong because I'm miserable with names, but it's Carl Hensch and it's New York Beauties and Flying Geese.
Great. That's a good one to check out.
His is one of my favorite bags. One of my favorite books. Some of my other favorite FPP pattern authors that I've used are Christy at Quiet Play. She is who I got the Create on my Take a Stand, and the Maker that you had showed back on Tools of the Trade when we were introducing. Those are both Christy's patterns, and I really love her font patterns. I think she does a super beautiful job, especially with that cursive font. really well laid out, easy to understand. So hers are fun for me for font. I have worked with Sherry at Full Circle Studio for my Love at First Sight quilt that I did with Besties. It's a super excellent starter foundation paper pieced pattern, really enjoyable quilt, lots of different options to do in there. Barine of Happy So Lucky, which I think Tula was talking about yesterday with the
Yeah, she was.
Quilty Friends are the best friends.
Yeah.
I've made lots of Barine's patterns. I did her tattoo quilt, which is one of my all-time favorites. It's actually laying on the bed that Jade has been visiting in Gabby's room
treat.
for the week.
Yeah, nice.
It's one of my favorites. So I really, really enjoy Barine's directions and instruction because they're very complicated blocks that she breaks down and makes really manageable. I'm trying to think. I do a lot of my own individual stuff for Flying Geese in EQ8 because I can then set my block size where I want it and I can work in those dimensions. So I actually really don't like math at all. I like quilty math and I like geometry. So that makes a lot of sense to me with foundation paper piecing and quilting because you get to work in those things.
Yeah, and I'll put in a little plug for EQ8. So I started using EQ way back at I think EQ2, and just gradually worked the way up. But if you haven't experimented with electric quilt software, be sure to check it out because they've got great tutorials that go with it. And like if you want to do an FPP pattern for Flying Geese to go on that flap on Bowl Me Over, you set your block at that size. You can take an FPP pattern that they've already designed and import it into there, and it may be perfect. All you do is print out your pattern and you're good to go. But there are so many. I used to do a lot of quilt patterns, and I did everything I did in there. And I often said I didn't ever have to make the quilt because I got it out of my system, just designing it and putting the fabric in EQ.
Yeah.
So, but it's to me like Quilter's Nintendo. So people need to get that and play with it.
To put it. Yeah, that really is probably the best description. I'm going to take that from you. Every time I say it now, I'm going to say, Annie said it's like Quilter's Nintendo.
Well, now that you've said that, now I need to.
I know, Jane said she needs to use it. I've been trying to get her onto this EQ8 bandwagon for a couple of months.
But it's the best.
Really is great. And it's a really wonderful way to use technology, whereas like I might have notebooks and all sorts of stuff, down. I don't have to use the actual paper for it, and I can save my blocks and save everything in there. I would also be remiss not to mention Stacy Day in terms of foundation paper piecing. I have taught Stacy's Starlines. I have made one of my all-time favorite large-scale quilts that I made of Stacy's was Imagination Quilt from the Daydreamer collection. And I want to say I made that quilt in something like 12 days because I just could not put it down. And I just got back from teaching Big Bang out, and that was designed by Stacy for Tula for her Roar collection. So I was like, I knew there was going to be one that I had just done, and I wanted to make sure that I had mentioned that as well. So
that's fabulous. So I can't wait to go check all those out. Those are some great suggestions. I haven't done much in the quilting world in a long time because I've been so focused on bags, but being able to incorporate those would be really fun. So thank you for sharing all of those ideas.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, Elissa, thank you so much for all your inspiration. Before we close, do you have any final advice for other makers or people who want to push the boundaries like you do? Because you are really the master at it.
Oh, thank you so much. Sincerely, that means a lot. So thank you so much for having me. My best piece of advice, truthfully, is just to be unapologetically you. That is the most authentic you can be. The most authentic version of yourself is just you. While it's super wonderful to be inspired by others, and certainly we all are as makers. That's what we should be doing in our creative community. But really that authenticity and the best version of you that's going to come through is when you are picking out what is going to honor you, the fabrics that you enjoy, the colors that you enjoy, the patterns that you enjoy, the scale that you're going to put in your projects. There's no one else like you. So the very best that you can give to yourself and everyone else around you really is yourself. I try to do that. Sometimes, I'll say, I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but whatever your cup of tea is. And my students that have heard me say this are probably giggling right now. But whatever your cup of tea is, I want to enjoy that so that I can cheer you on, because you're going to be the most authentic version of yourself when you're just being you. And you're going to be able to provide the most to our community, because it's really a really, really wonderful, supportive community when you're being yourself. So that really is my best advice. Anything worth doing is worth enjoying every single moment, and you're going to get so much more out of it, so much more enjoyment out of your creating, your bag making, your quilting, your sewing, your stitching, whatever it is, your knitting, when you're just being you. There's going to be some things that are going to be easy and some things that are going to be hard. They're both going to be worth it, but just kind of staying in your wheelhouse with what makes you you is what is going to draw people to you. And it's, that's what we want to all cheer for, is just being able to celebrate each other. So being authentically yourself, trying to stay humble, and creating with authenticity and passion is kind of where I try to stay. I will overthink something to death, because that's very much me. I want to give a little bit of me everywhere I go, and the best way that I can do that is just to be myself. So that's my best piece of advice.
That is such good advice, and so very true, because when we follow our own instincts and do what makes us happy and lights up our life, it's going to work. So yeah, great. Yeah. When we try to copy what someone else is doing, it's not the same. So thank you. But thank you for sharing so many tips for what your thoughts are on doing it, because that applies to lots of different fabrics and lots of different projects and so many things. So we really, really appreciate that. Your work is just so fabulous. So thank you for being here. I am definitely inspired to try and do some foundation paper piecing, and that is one thing that is on our list of things, is to perhaps design some borders and things that can be incorporated into various ByAnnie bags that maybe become add-on patterns that can go with them.
I love that.
It's just finding time to do it all. So maybe I'll dig out my EQ and start playing with it a little bit more and see what I can come up with. So thank you again for being with us today. Thank you, Jade, for joining us and being the helper too. I can't wait to see both of you again soon. Safe travels home, Jade. Elissa, safe travels to your next class. You've got lots and lots of stuff on your plate, but take care, get some rest, and we'll look forward to seeing you both again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Annie.
Bye-bye. Wow. That was so much fun. I really cannot wait to go home and sit down and watch that up close and personal. So I don't know what's in my mouth, but I hope you all enjoyed seeing Elissa's work. I hope you'll be inspired to step outside the box and push the boundaries a little bit. Be sure and send pictures, submit them to our photo contest. We always love seeing what you do. And as always, ask for these fabrics, patterns, and supplies at your local quilt shop. As you know, I say this every week. They are such an important part of our sewing and quilting community. It is up to all of us to keep them strong and vibrant. And remember, if they don't have these products, they can get them from their favorite distributor or directly from us, because we're always happy to set up wholesale accounts for qualified stores, so just ask them to contact us. Also, be sure to stay tuned at the end of this episode to see the video clip of the local quilt shop that we featured on social media this week. If you have ever wanted to visit the quilt shop at the end of the world, you're not going to want to miss the one we're featuring today. Jennifer's Quilt Shop of Conception Bay South in Newfoundland, Canada, is on the furthest point east in Canada, and it still has everything you need, so be sure and check it out. And thank you again to everyone who joined us today. We are going to be back, well, some of us are going to be back next week at 2 p.m. Mountain Time on Wednesday with another inspiring episode of Live with Annie. Teresa is going to be taking over live, as I am going to be in Montana visiting my daughter and grandson. So we're hoping to get some relaxation in, which I am really ready for. Teresa will be joined by Carly Porter. I don't know why I want to call her Kaylee, but I do. Carly Porter of Graffiti Quilting, to learn about her techniques for quilting fabulous designs and how they can be applied to ByAnnie projects. Carly has a great story to tell, and I know you are going to enjoy meeting her, so be sure to mark your calendar now. And until then, happy stitching!
Hi, I'm Teresa Coates of ByAnnie.com and Patterns by Annie. Today we are visiting Jennifer's Quilt Shop in Conception Bay South, Newfoundland, Canada. Despite being a brand new store, Jennifer's Quilt Shop was the regional winner for Newfoundland in the 2024 Local Quilt Shop Contest. 1 year is all it took for the shop to get on our map, literally, and we are so glad to have found them. Tucked away along the coast near St. John's, Newfoundland, and at the furthest point east in Canada, Jennifer Peddle opened her quilt shop in early 2023. She'd found quilting only a few years before, but after delving into teaching classes part-time, she realized she wanted to make this her full-time career. It didn't take long before Jennifer's Quilt Shop opened its doors to quilters on the island. The shop is cozy and filled with fabrics, notions, a long arm for custom quilting, and even a bit of classroom space. Jennifer's Quilt Shop is small but mighty. She hosts classes and sewing days, providing a cheerful and welcoming environment for quilters in the area. Each month, you can find daytime retreaters spending 2 days retreating with Fran and Roxanne, sewing from dawn to dusk. Jennifer's love of quilts and quilt making is obvious to shoppers. Many of the voters in our local quilt shop contest noted how friendly she is. Roxanne called her a sweetheart. Renee commented that Jennifer is passionate about quilting and gets everyone just as excited. We love this. The local quilt shop spread the joy of fabrics and quilting with everyone. I think it's wonderful to spend time in a place with people who share the same enthusiasm for this hobby, and her customers do too. If you're lucky enough to find yourself in Newfoundland, make sure to grab a ferry or a short plane ride to Conception Bay South, where you can see the sunset over the ocean from nearly anywhere in town. You might even get lucky enough to catch sight of an iceberg or puffins. Not something that most of us get a chance to see, but for Jennifer and her customers, it's the norm. I loved learning about this quaint shop on an island in Newfoundland, and I hope that you have too. We can always find fabric lovers no matter where we go. For more information on Jennifer's Quilt Shop, make sure to visit www.jennifersquiltshop.ca. Until next time, happy stitching!